snap, it's bending back, it's a goal. He can just kick the goal. He's got the goal. Carlton are out of the finals at the moment. 12 seconds left.
Welcome to Thursday Lines. I'm your host, Scoot, and what a week of AFL and NRL we've had. MG, you got a bit of a freshen up. There's no AFL this week. We've probably done it a couple of times, but are you pro or against this little week freshen up?
Scooty, I like to roll with the action. You know me. I like the backup, so I'm straight into it for mine. It just doesn't make any sense at all. Just gives the NRL free hit at it again. They don't need the bye. Just get straight into it. Let's get it over and done with. Who's missing from concussion, Scoot, this week? Who needed the week off? No one. So I'm a fan. Get straight into it, Scoot.
Nick Tedeschi, you welcome the free hit. The league needs every little leg up they can from the AFL, given the AFL's a more popular sport within Australia, and the rugby league is starting to look at Papua New Guinea for answers. But welcome to the show, Dorian of Rugby League, Nick Tedeschi, Toprope.
I've been very disappointed with your attitude towards the greatest count of all. Look, to be honest, I didn't even realise the AFL season had started. Wouldn't have known anything really far. I wasn't. If we have to jump in the time machine every week and go Friday and Thursday to like a preview on this podcast, but I think we'll look at the free-to-air viewership numbers this year. Tells you a pretty strong story about what the most popular sport is. So, NRL flying, NRL doesn't care. NRL cares so little that even in Melbourne they're resting their players. So, not to worry there. PNG. Yeah, nothing new there. Perth coming in, PNG next. Not only the world game, we're about to become the national game.
Yeah, outstanding. The real big news.
I like
on a positive note.
I like how he says he's about to become. So he's just gone from saying they are, and now it's about to. Good luck in Perth. Toprope worked well last time.
The best news, as I was going to talk about, is the talk of under 21s rugby league back on the agenda. It used to be frantic betting in the under 20s. I think this just doubles the fun and doubles the action for us.
It is very, very, very exciting from a gambling point of view. Some of let's not throw it under the bus. Let's not call them rules. Let's just call them little, nice little wages. Oh my gosh, some of the team ins and outs, some of the movement. It's very, very exciting. It's a chips in overs bet for the first 8 weeks of the year every time. Oh, it's going to be fantastic. It's fun little story about what Foxtel were a bit filthy about the National Youth Competition being disbanded. It used to rate 4 times as high as the Super Rugby games they used to show on television. So they were a bit filthy that they wouldn't be able to show it anymore. So unlucky to them, but poor old rugby, they're completely cast. Now they've got to deal with the NYC humiliating them again.
I think it's just all upside, and it'd be great to see. And the bookmakers will be licking their lips, I would have thought. It's pretty hard to take some of the big money on the under 20s, and some of the biggest under 20s punters, they're not with us, or some of them are in the clink. So it's going to be interesting.
I do remember a great one at the Sydney Football Stadium one day. This is nothing to do with a rule. This was just. And obviously at the time these days were like coming through, but they weren't as big as ours. So Latrell Mitchell and Joseph Manu are going to be playing in the under 20s. You probably would have backed them against the Sharks. It's like $3.50 outside, $3.50 to $1.20. Bang.
That's what we're going to see. We're going to see some crazy flux. So once that gets formally announced, it's going to be an absolute boom time for Toprope and anyone that jumps on his subscription, because that's going to be next level goodness, and there'll be rorts galore. So can't wait for that one. But it's starting to get to the serious side of things. There was a couple of upsets last week. Tigers, where did that come from? 34-26 over Manly, Toprope.
Where did that come from? It came from the that popular referee simply 3 Manly players. So that certainly didn't help. Tigers are good like that. Like Tigers are absolutely. I know they're a different team. They are set up with that win. They are set up one of the most anticipated events of the rugby league season next week. The Spoon Bowl. Parramatta, doesn't matter what they do this week. It's so good. There's a rumour Parramatta might be resting some players to get involved in the Spoon Bowl. 6 o'clock next Friday. Perfect time slot for it. Tigers, Eels, for the wooden spoon. Oh, no, they'll then second at 30,000 after the game. It's that exciting. So, the Tigers, they're a little bit late. Manly do like to dog it on the road. So, it was a good win for them. But I think the big one we'll probably get to next will be the Raiders Panthers. Is that what we're heading to next?
Yeah, well, I guess they're on the slide a little bit. Melbourne Storm, Canberra Raiders. Are the wheels coming off? Is this finally going to be the year that we see them tipped over?
Could be. They were poor against Parramatta and come back late. They scored 16 points in the last 10 minutes to come back and win that one. They were bad against the Storm, but maybe a little bit unlucky. They were dreadful against Canberra, absolutely dreadful. Good bounce back score from this week. I think they've got every opportunity to play themselves at the forming as your Rabbitohs. Rabbitohs are absolutely horrendous. I can't recall a team with such low football IQ as I've seen from this year. But Penrith get a chance. The word is clear he's not as bad as first thought, so probably going to play this week. I think he'll play next week. I wouldn't be too worried about Penrith yet. I lost this week or a bad performance this week. You might start questioning it. 2 in a row has been rare for Penrith. 3 in a row in the last 4 years has been non-existent.
I did like in our warm-up, we were sort of talking about the US Open, and you mentioned how boring tennis was because the top 4 seeds, they just go on and have won everything for the last 20 years, Mark reminds us, which is probably fair. I'm just going to put a bit of a graphic up on the screen, given that Penrith have won the last 3. And if you have a look at the graphic that we're just about to produce, Storm are the minor premiers here, and for the last, 11 years, you had Roosters, Storm and Panthers finish minor premiers. So that's alarm bells for me. If you look at the AFL and their draft system, you'll see a lot more variety there. You could nearly call this boring. And then if I look at the last, say, 11 or 12 winners of the NRL Premiership, I've got Panthers 3 times. You've got
6 different premiers. You've got 6 different premiers.
Yeah, but then if you stretch for another year, it's the Storm in 2012. So
stretch another year, and the Seagulls were back at 7 in 2011. And you stretch it back another year, you got the Dragons. That's 8 teams since 2010.
And if you scratch it, if you go back to 2009 and then 2007, you got 2 scratchings. I can see it. There's a little Melbourne Storm with a little scratching.
There's another 2 teams that you can have.
So it's not a boring competition. And can you explain this at the top? Why is the minor premiership looking so skewed there with only three clubs? Do they pinch all the talent? Is it brown paper bags? I'm alleging that. I'm not saying it is, but what's going on?
It's how well run certain clubs are. But it's like the minor premiership is just so little value that teams like Penrith tanked it a couple of years ago. Like Penrith rested all their players and they had a chance to win the minor premiership. People don't care. It's like you want a top 4 spot. There is definitely an advantage in finishing top 2. After that, people just don't care. So, the best team. And one of the things that the NRL does need to be careful with over the last little bit, all this draft garbage is like the biggest load of absolute bollocks in the world. No matter what the sport is with the AFL, all you do is get massive teams tanking at the bottom. Look at the number of wins from wooden spoon clubs in the last 10 years in the NRL with the AFL. We'll tell a certain story. What the difference is, where the NRL is going to find a problem over the next little bit, is parity's always been the key, absolute key for the NRL. But I think it was from like the early 90s to the Roosters being 2 in a row, teams, there's no back-to-back premiers. Now, where that's gone skewed is the salary cap. And the same for every club, but it's getting to such a point that players are willing to take less money because the marginal difference between staying somewhere you like for 800,000 and going somewhere new for $1 million, they'll just go, I'll just stay where I like for 800,000. Whereas in the old days, the difference between 300,000 to 500,000, a fair percentage, right? So that's where we kind of see it stretch out a little bit at the top over the last probably 3 or 4 years, and that's something PBL is going to want to keep a close eye on, I would have thought.
How does he do that? So then how does he fix that? Because he's obviously got a fair bit on his hands. He's doing a great job of trying to sell Rose Hill, but how do they fix the salary cap issue that you just spoke about for NRL to make it fair?
Let's not misconstrue the words that I just said. I didn't say there was an issue. I said something they need to be mindful of in the near future. Well, what they need to do is just keep a pretty firm lid on the cap, and that means I would think stretching out sports a little bit more. So they've got like 11 million for 30 players now, make it 11 million for 32 players. Well, that's what they need to do.
We can pick that one up maybe at the start of next season once more players get traded or move across to the minor premier clubs that we've just displayed on the screen. MG, it is a break in AFL world this week, but wow, what a exciting Sunday afternoon that was. Carlton, one of the biggest chokes of your life, and then you've had Port Adelaide just steamroll Fremantle, who were pretty insipid with the ball. They were sloppy, and Carlton get the saloon passage in. So I guess the result prior was all academic, especially with the Western Bulldogs doing a pretty good job of GWS. Can't really think that Collingwood and Fremantle deserve to be in the finals, and I think the top eight's been pretty warranted in terms of the consistency across the entirety of the season. Obviously, Carlton are decimated by injury, so I guess they deserve a bit of a chance to salvage their season.
Yeah, it was a great Sunday, Scoot. It was, very exciting, all three games, actually, which they needed because unless you had some good oil or information, whatever you want to refer to it, early in the week, there was some fill-ups going around, Scoot. There was some, I'm going to say this, end-of-season trips were certainly paid for. There's going to be some fat bar tabs around the world, Scoot, wherever they travel, because there was some absolute laydowns. West Coast laid down to Geelong. The betting was crazy. Your Hawks just, betting a practice match. It was a fill-up as well. And then, Sydney doing the job. Brisbane pulled up late. Essendon kicked the last 5 just to, tease their supporters again for next year. Poor Bombers. But yeah, the Sunday was unbelievable. The Dogs, Giants. I think the Giants might have taken it a bit easy, Scoot, with the weather the way it was. They pulled a couple of players out on the morning of because I think they were quite happy to stay at home and play Sydney week 1 of the finals. So, Carlton were... they'd worked hard under man all game, and then basically to choke at the end was pretty poor. And if they'd missed that the finals, because of that, would have been very disappointed. But Fremantle, they matched Carlton's effort, I guess, bottling the last 4 games of the year. They were in the top 4 with a month to go and lost their last 4 to miss out. But I think overall, Scoot, I think you're right. I think the top 8 teams is where most of the year's been for form. Carlton are probably, decimated by injuries. They're probably the only one that don't deserve or probably won't participate too heavily. They're big outsiders week 1. So, and Port Adelaide just keep flying under the radar, Scoot. Our 2 pre-season bets, Sydney and Port, they've landed the 1-2 slot. So,
too good.
Both at double figures at the start of the year. So, we're pretty well placed there at the moment. I think Port are going under the radar massively. I think they'll take care of Geelong week 1, which we'll cover shortly. And if Sydney can do the job at home, which they've been pretty strong this year against the Giants, they've won their last 3 against them, then, we're a chance to, you never know, Scoot. Cards might fall and we might have the 1-2 slot in the grand final day and just sit back and enjoy it.
Outstanding stuff. AFLW begins tomorrow night. You're pretty good at this, Caper. Early premiership tip. Brisbane are favourites, $4.80. Kangaroos, $5. Adelaide, $6. Melbourne, $8.50. Geelong, $10. And Gold Coast, $16. Sydney, $18 at Top Sport. Have you had a little dabble?
Not yet, Scoot. I'm just going to, it's always a bit harder to get wages on during the women's football. The bookies don't like to take the bets, but Brisbane are probably the obvious, even though it's pretty open, $4.80, they're probably the obvious. But a couple of values, Scoot, I wouldn't mind following, having a chip on is Gold Coast at 16 and definitely Sydney at 18. I think if you're looking for value, they might give you a good run, and I expect them to play finals this year. Sydney Swans.
Quick look at NFL season prices. Kansas City looking for 3-peat, $6 at Top Sport. 49ers, $7. The Ravens, $10. Bengals, $13. Lions, $13. Eagles, $14. Bills, $15. Nick Tedeschi's going to tip his Niners again, no doubt.
I haven't done the form for it yet, so just working through it this week. So I'll have something more for you next week. Early thoughts are Niners are unders. early thoughts on maybe the Cowboys, but haven't put the work into it yet. So Olympics has got me a couple of weeks behind, but this weekend is dedicated to getting into the numbers.
Outstanding. MG, any mail from Jerry or any of your spies or your touts in the NFL circles?
But yeah, Scoot, I don't mind the Texans early look at $17. Just they've recruited really well. They're massive underperformers in their recent history, but yeah, not the worst. And the NFL's always very open and very difficult to win. Saying that, the Chiefs are going for a three-peat, but geez, they'd have to break some history to get there. But the Texans maybe at $17, Scoot.
Outstanding. Outside the market there, but cracking and gives us something to do. It's just beautiful on a Friday morning or Monday morning. And then you can get the Game Pass as well if you don't want to be a night owl and stay up all night on Sunday night, which is more my cup of tea. Speaking of burning the midnight oil, it's the US Open tennis, and looking at the men's quickly at Top Sport, Alcaraz 310, Djokovic 310, Sinner 450, Zverev $8, Medvedev 14, and Shelton 41. Our man Ace Stephen Quick, he's saying that Djokovic is the value. I think he's been 4 into 310, and he's got the easy side of the draw, so he's the way to play that one, and I think he's had a little bit of a saver on Medvedev, who goes pretty good over there. In the women's, it's Sabalenka, Swiatek, Goff. I've got a stranglehold on the betting there, but don't have any mail or information there. Let's have a quick look at the premiership prices as we straighten the wheels and get deeper into the show here. And Sydney Swans are $3.60, GWS are $5, Port $5, $7.50 Brisbane, Geelong $8.50, Western Bulldogs $9, Hawks $11, and then Carlton $31. Free bet. I'll probably take the GWS Giants, hoping that they knock off the Swans early. But yeah, it's going to be a fascinating final series. But yeah, it's hard to go outside the top two. Port Adelaide, yeah, I want to believe you, MG, but they've just let us down too many times to make it. But I've got a lot of respect more respect for Ken Hinkley than most, especially most Adelaide people. I think he's a great coach. But yeah, I'm not a big believer in Port. I've been burnt too many times.
I think, I don't know how it runs so much in the NRL, but definitely in the AFL, the statistics, if you're just taking a line, say, through the 2000s, through this century, the amount of teams that play off in the grand final, win the grand final, finish in 1, 2, and 4. 3 seems to be a bogey slot for whatever reason. But yeah, just a massive advantage to the top 4 sides. So very happy for the 2 teams that we're on to slot in at 1 and 2. And if they get the win this week, then obviously you get the week off straight into the prelim, and normally a home final at that stage of the year bodes well for playing off in the grand final. So yeah, happy with the book. And I think the other matches to watch is obviously the 2 informed teams of the Bulldogs and Hawthorn. We will lose one obviously this week, but yeah, the winner out of that is definitely going to scare some whoever loses from the top 4 teams, Scoot. That's going to be a tough matchup for whoever they face.
Yeah, it's going to be an absolute corker. Might have to slip down and have a captain at that one in the flesh. Brownlow medal prices, Cripper $2.34, Dacos $2.50, Lockie Neal $7.50, The Bont $15, Sarong $21. Who gets votes in the final round?
It's going to be a busy last round. And it might go a long way to decide it. But yeah, they're definitely up there, Scoot, especially the top 3. I'm keen on Cripps. Have been for probably the last maybe 6 weeks of the season. I just think he's got enough in the bag, and even though Dacos nails on his 3. Neil will get his. I think Cripps he'll poll at least 1, maybe 2 in the last round. There'll be enough to get it done. But it's good to see the bookies are finally clearing out. I think we spoke to this a couple of weeks ago that the market was just too crammed. The ones behind him. So Neil's already on the drift. $6 out to $7.50 in the last couple of days. Bont's got right out. He's almost doubled his price. Same as the wrong Merit. Scoot, it's a 2-horse race. Neil is a chance because obviously he came from nowhere last year and he has won 2 before. So outside of the top 3, Scoot, you can, I know you got to price these up, but pretty much none of them can win for mine. So I just don't think there's a lot of meat on the bone outside. And I think that, especially as Betfair as a guide, as it gets closer, you'll see some big drifts on these ones. Bont will start, longer than 20s. Merit's far too short. Sarong can't win. Green, you can have the rest. So I think Cripps and Dacos will continue to shorten, and Neil will hold his price there.
Outstanding stuff. $44 for MG's Brownlow pack. And the good thing is he's only sent about 5 team votes, so you'll still get that one. But then the bookies are just dragging their feet with the rest of these markets. So there's going to be a ton of product up. So if you haven't signed up, make sure you check that one out. NRL Premiership prices, new favourite here. Alarm bells ringing for the Panthers, as I alluded to earlier. $3.20 to Storm now at Top Sport. Panthers $3.60 and Roosters on the same quote at $3.60 there. So your Bulldogs at $9 are hanging around like a sheep with Dags, but it'd be surprising if the winner doesn't come from the top 3. But
Not at all. Canterbury are well and truly in the mix this year. The best guide for premiership success is defence. The Bulldogs currently conceding fewer tries per game than any other team, and have kept teams scoreless in the second half 8 times this year. So they're able dogs, but they finished 4th or 5th. They're absolutely a contender. I wouldn't say from parents just yet. We talked about it earlier. I'd be much more inclined to that 360 parents than the 320 or whatever it was, 280 on the Storm. I think that's only a little short there for Melbourne. Minor premiers don't have a tremendous record of going on winning premiership either. So, I'd be working on those 2 things. The Roosters have the upside to win it. Bloody hell, they've got some downside. Like in that, I've never seen a team put 48 points on the team and look like they dogged it for 25 minutes. Like they should have put 70 on them last week. They were just pretty with it. It was out of the game, throwing the ball willy-nilly, knocking it on. They were as ordinary as a team could be, posting 48. So if they can get their shit together, they're 100% in the mix. But I think they need to get a little more focus about their performances and a few more 80-minute performances.
Yeah, well, I won't be able to do that and get away with it against Storm and Panthers. That's for sure. MG, you finished with a wet sail here. Big hat tip here. Round 24, had 9 wins, 3 losses, 32.5 units bet. So a lot of pressing there. Love that sort of stuff. Plus 13 units at 40%, and it takes your yearly total, or home and away total, to 28.44 units. A new chip leader over Mr. Tedeschi at 5.61%, which is beautiful business. And then Toprope, you went 3 and 3, sorry. And 16 units bet, and there was a drink in it, and then you're still running around at plus 26 units at 5.96% pot. So good season thus far for both of you boys, and with plenty more to come. Let's have a look at the first game here, and he's done you a favour this time. Thursday night, it's Cowboys versus Storm, so we're not in the time machine. Cowboys $1.23, Storm $4.20. 13.5 the line and 52.5 the total. Make sense of this for us, Toprope.
I'm stunned that the line has gone out to as far as it has. Melbourne resting a lot of players, resting 11 players. But Cameron Munster's still playing, Wayne Paparazzi's still playing, Christian Welsh, Tyron Wishart, still playing longer, a host of others still playing. 3 players about the year, but it performed very well. Are all on the team. Cowboys covered 3 of their last 13 at home, 7 of the last 29 top 14. And to the Storm, underdogs of scoring 48 or more, covered at 68%. Top 4 teams that win 20 or more at the back end of the year, covered 57%. Storm covered 5-6 in the state. I don't know how this number's gotten out so big. Like they are 100% a bet here. The Storm. They rarely get fouled. Their biggest loss this year is 7 points. Now I know they're missing a lot of their stars. They've still got a couple of stars. They haven't played their main spine for much of the year. I'll be back in the Storm going pretty hard.
Yeah, I think the ATM's back there. 13.5 looks absolute luxury, and you've just got so many players peppering to try and fill in the edges of that Storm team. So plus 13.5 at Top Sport looks like an absolute gift. I couldn't agree more. Thursday week, we won't talk about it much, but we'll talk about it a little bit. Port Adelaide versus Geelong is the next match. $1.49, $2.60, the Cats. 11.5 the line and 164.5. Free bet, MG, or which way will the market go, you think?
Open 10 Port. I don't think it's got too much in it, Scoot. I think around that 10 to 12 range is about right. We've got the 3rd best defence in Port against the 3rd best offence, so I think that's going to be where it's going to be won. Port have won 6 in a row at home. Happy to have them a ticket for the premiership, no need to bet. And early on the total, Scoot, I'd be leaning just to the over at this stage, but obviously the weather's okay for now, but we'll see how it shapes up next week. But yeah, I think it'll trend slightly Port and slightly over.
It's an interesting one. I think looking at the Cats have had maybe a bit of a fake last 4 to 5 weeks. So
Played easy teams.
Oh, yeah, and they haven't just also, they were 100 points up at halftime against West Coast, as you said, and it looked like West Coast just stayed in the sheds the whole time. But, yeah, there could be a little bit of fake news about the Cats' last 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah,
so
I don't like the midfield matchup for Geelong. It's terrible when you come up against 4 keys against Port, when you got Wines and Butters and Rose. I just think that's where it'll be won. I think Port at home will get the job done. Hopefully they will.
Dry deck, a lot of speed. They could be in lots of trouble, or that could be the difference. Let's have a look at Friday night Canterbury Bulldogs versus Manly. You would have a chub here, top rope, $1.61 for the Bulldogs, $2.35 Manly, 3.5 the line and 46.5 here. This would be beautiful.
No time machine didn't last long. We're going 4 a week this time, haven't we? Instead of and back rather than just rolling on through what's actually on this weekend. Bulldogs, Manly, yeah, Dave's going for the Dogs. This is the most certainty here. Like, Manly are entrenched in the top. I think the Bulldogs are probably a bet, but you can get tricked. So a loss wouldn't be the worst thing for Canterbury right now. Unfortunately, they are pressing for the top 4 spots, so they won't be taking it easy. But Manly have won 9 of the last 10. Certainly the Woodland of late. But Bulldogs covered 15 of the last 20. I think the market just has them wrong, way wrong still. They've covered 9 of the last 10 at night, 6 of the last 7 against top 8 teams, 6 of the last 8 of the core. So a small bit of the Dogs, not getting over the top here, but probably not the last few weeks. I'm kind of maybe a little bit, I'm waiting for a little bit of a fall, but we haven't seen it this year, so we'll just roll on and have another small bit on the Bulldogs.
I think you're just being a little bit cautious, over cautious as a loyal follower. If what you said earlier about
not used to success, but
no, exactly. I think if the defence is half as good as you said earlier, I think they'll be winning this one. And geez, I don't like the West Tigers form for Manly. That absolutely stinks.
Also, Serraldo against Seabold is a pretty fair coaching edge in the matchup there as well. So.
Haven't heard much of his name all year. Seabold.
Oh well, that's because he's got his team into the 8 and taking advantage of his soft draw. So his time's coming. Don't worry about that.
Next Friday night is an absolute beauty. We've got Western Bulldogs versus Hawthorn, $1.74 the Bulldogs, Hawks $2.05, 3.5 the line, 166.5 total. MG for your subscribers, you've pressed in early, the total points over.
Yeah, just come up too far apart there, Scoot. Again, you're taking a bit of a punt on the early forecast. It seems fine. Melbourne weather generally always is, Scoot. We don't get much rain down here, so forecast for sunny skies for you. You won't need a jacket or anything down here when you're coming down Friday night. But yeah, I just think this is probably I think this is the pick of the finals actually, Scoot, for you to come down and have a look. Both very good informed teams, and probably the downside is we'll lose one going forward. But yeah, close to a pick 'em game. Bulldogs are just shaded, but I think you're if I was having a bet, Scoot, I'm going to be on your Hawks because at the G, Bulldogs have only played there twice this year and gone 1-1, and it's for mine, it's a home game to Hawthorn. It's not like the Bulldogs crowd's going to scare the Hawks either. So I think the crowd will be pretty 50-50, and I think the advantage is with the Hawks. And don't be surprised if there's a bit of a swing in the betting here, but yeah, I just think there'll be offense here, and the Bulldogs are going to have to score, at least 90, closer to 100 to get this job done, Scoot. So, yeah, over 164 is too low for me.
Hawks have been riding high for a long time, and I think the only negative that I can find about the Hawks is maybe the break won't do them any good. That could be the big key. They've been up and about, and obviously the kids' bodies sort of get tired and can sort of knock up. So if they come back in the similar vein of form and amount of energy, especially their pressure off the ball, I think they can roll the doggy. So fascinating to see how that one rolls out. But whatever they do in this year's final series, be chips in for 2025. I'll have to find every dollar that I've got to back them for the flag next year. I reckon they are the team. Dolphins versus Broncos. Let's have a look at this one at Suncorp Stadium. Mr. Tedeschi, Broncos $1.45, $2.75 Dolphins, 6.5 the line, 52.5 the total. Wow, I know the Broncos are on the edge of the 8, but $1.45 seems sickly short about those boys.
Oh, yeah, leave me out of that. I'm 100% with you. Look, great clash, rivalry clash. There's no quaint name like the Q Clash, but they'll survive. Big game at Suncorp. Loser is out for the year. Winner keeps their hopes alive for one more week. Broncos won all 3 matchups against the Dolphins, and the war pretty close. I suspect this is a handy bounce back squad for the Dolphins. They've covered both games of conceding 40 or more. They were just conceding 48 plus in the back end of the year, cover at 69%. Dolphins covered 6 last 8 and lost of 13 plus. Brisbane riding an 8-game non-cover streak at Suncorp. So, they beat Parramatta last week. I thought they were decidedly impressive in doing so. So, I'll be back in the Dolphins plus 6.5, and if someone who's on over 10.5 weeks for the year, I'll be cheering on that win the head-to-head battle as well.
Yeah, outstanding stuff. Yeah, it looks like an auto bet. The Dolphins plus 6.5. Can't wait for that one. Sydney versus GWS is the I don't know. You talk about Western Bulldogs Hawks, but this could decide who's premier here. MG $1.62. The Swans $2.25. GWS 7.5 the line and 172.5 at the SCG. What a ball terror! Which way is the money going to run here?
Toprope's favourite contest in the AFL, the Battle of the Bridge. Two Sydney teams. He loves it.
I still want to know which bridge this is about.
That's so true.
That's why I brought it up. You love it. It's the 3rd time they played this year. You love Battle of the Bridge.
I do love the name of the Battle of the Bridge. Because last time I watched it, there was a whole lot of freeways, not too many bridges connecting Western Sydney with the city.
Yeah, Battle of the Bridge. 3rd time they played this year, Scoot. Yeah, I know you're a fan of the GWS, which is fine. I'm glad I kept you off the Sydney train because you were torturing with them when they were going.
I was declaring.
Now they're back in gear. They've had their little mid to late season slump. Won the last 3. Then they've won their last 3 against the Giants. Won both of them pretty comfortably this year. Scoot won by 29 and 27 points at home. They got the best defence against the Giants, who have actually ranked 9th in defence. So that's going to be their Achilles heel. Yeah, if I wasn't involved in Sydney so much on the flag and just trying to get them through to the last 4, -7's cheap for me. I think at home, the only downside for me with Sydney, they got a full list back. Papley will come back and play with McInerney, so they won't be missing a player. Is just their day record, Scoot. They're the only day final, and somehow Sydney have seemed to got that fixture. They're only 5 and 4 during the day, where at night they're 12 and 2 on the year. So Swannies love playing at night. So for me, that's the only downside. I think Sydney will take care of business against the Giants.
To the Roosters and Canberra on Sunday afternoon. 4 o'clock fixture here, and the Roosters $1.16, 5.30 the Raiders, 15.5 the line and 52.5 the total at Top Sport. The way you're talking about the Roosters not being able to, not looking great, bit of flair, the way sort of Ricky Stewart coaches, I'm leaning plus. Am I guessing right?
You are guessing right. Just small. I don't have a lot of faith in Canberra, but people are scoring out of them more against Penrith. 21-6 against the spread the last 4 years. So we're happy to take that overall number there. And Canberra in a pretty good spot. They've covered 5 of their last 7 on the road, 6 of their last 7 on the road, as name total 14 or more. No knock on the Roosters. Roosters have put on 34 plus in 6 of their last 7. So it's their defensive story. I think that the Raiders can get to 20 points here, so I'll be back in the plus.
Yeah. Outstanding stuff. So a good way to finish your Sunday afternoon responsibly. Brisbane Carlton is the last one. Feels like a bit of a dead rubber. I've sort of written both of these sides off. $1.28, $3.55 the Blues, 23.5 the line and 166.5. I say that because I think whoever gets through this game will be getting knocked around in the second week. But MG, Carlton, it'll just hinge upon their forward line. Gee, they could have done with some of their key forwards late in the game last week, but it'll be 11th hour stuff, won't it, next week to see which way the market goes here? Yeah,
well, the early market's been for definitely been for the favourite here. They opened 20, so it's already gone to 23. It looks like they're going to, they could get anywhere from maybe 3 or 4 up to 6 or 7 players back, which is going to be a lot to change going into a final scoop. But, there's a lot of keys that need to come back in for Carlton to be able to compete with Brisbane up in Brisbane. They got the second best defence and, Carlton need the offense against Brisbane to be competitive, to have any shot to win this game, because Carlton leak points there, 13th ranked defence, which is just non-existent. So you're right with Carlton; they're just going to have limited influence. I can't see them beating Brisbane, but I can't come into the price. But I think this, unless all these players come back for Carlton, I just think the market might continue to creep through the mid-20s here for Brisbane. And if they play to form, I just think they'll get the job and move on. I think Carlton have had too much pain on the back end here.
Yeah, I think, well, as I said, it's a dead rubber. It's zero interest for me. But what's of interest with me is the Brownlow package. So that's $44. So I'm waiting with bated breath for the bookies to roll out more markets. This is one of the biggest betting events of the year, bar none. You got the Melbourne Cup, you got the AFL NRL Grand Finals, you got Origin, and then the Brownlow's somewhere in the mix. It could be as big as nearly all of them, or just behind the Melbourne Cup, really. That's how big the Brownlow medal betting is. And even Toprope Tedeschi, who is anti-AFL, I'm going to say anti because he is. He doesn't think the season started, but the best thing is the season's finished and you can bet on the Brownlow, and this is the one thing that he acknowledges, that the AFL do better than the NRL, because they can't even figure out how to do a proper daily M, which Jerome Hughes is going to win anyway. So make sure you get the Brownlow pack, because you can bet your brains out responsibly. Can't you, Toprope?
Look, I don't have no idea what I'm backing every year. But I like to go absolutely nuts. I don't know whether they played well, but much like Eurovision, I love seeing the numbers tick over. I love getting excited about the voting. It's a wonderful event. And I'll tell you what, my advice to the AFL, whoever the new AFL boss is after Gill left, just get rid of the season. Just do weekly voting. Run weekly Brownlows would be very exciting.
They could just do an AI generated comp, just a fantasy AFL league. Your cup of tea.
Absolutely.
All right. On a serious note, good luck on the weekend, especially you, Toprope, because you've got real action, and we're sort of just playing with ourselves over here in AFL world. We'll be taking the missus out for dinner, lunch and tea, and getting the brownie points so we can roar home for the last 4 weeks of the finals and dominate the remote control. But can't wait to see how all the action washes out, and then, fascinating ins and outs for next week's AFL fixtures. But good luck on the weekend, and a big thanks to Punting from Top Spot, as always, for getting us through another season. And see you next week. Good luck, boys.